Welcome to Relationship Talks, where we get to take a look at what goes on behind closed doors. I am your host, Laurie Brooke, the communication and conflict resolution coach and mediator, and the relationship architect for your relationships, helping you to design, create, and live relationships that you love. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Relationship Talks. I'm your host, Laurie Brooke, and together we're going to take a look at what goes on behind closed doors. Today, I am joined by Erin and Jim Schneider.
Hi, I'm Erin.
And hi, I'm Jim.
And we've been married for 13 years.
Erin, a parent coach, and Jim, a writer. They are the parents of a 9-year-old girl and a 6-year-old boy, and their son was diagnosed with autism in 2020. And their journey to find the best support for him has led and inspired Erin to launch a business helping families with autistic children, and Jim to author a soon-to-be-released parenting memoir, Fence Bat, a big kid's guide to parenting, personal growth, and play. Welcome, Erin and Jim, to the Relationship Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
Now, I'm curious, how did you two first meet?
Aha, this is good.
Do you want to tell the story?
Sure. We met in Las Vegas at a trade show called World of Concrete. This is for real. It's a real thing. People gather. Many tens of thousands of people gather every year to go to the World of Concrete. We both happen to be working in for companies that adjacent to that industry back then, and so we had sort of a mutual colleague and just kind of a happenstance dinner together, and that's how we met. And we both lived in Chicago at the time, but we met at this thing in Las Vegas, so then we just kind of went back together. And funny enough too, it's like I was working for this concrete trade association, which I actually work for a different facet of it now, but back then I worked with this particular guy who actually had known Erin's family for years and didn't know that. And it turned out so we met, and then I went to a different meeting after that, and this person comes up and said, "Oh, I heard you met Erin." It's like, what? Like, how did word get around that fast? And it turned out actually that, and I still have this email, he had emailed me like a year and a half before we met and said, "Oh, I think I met the future Mrs. Schneider." And I was like, "Yeah, sure,
wow.
Whatever." And it took the World of Concrete to bring us together.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. I think I'm also quite astounded that there is a world of concrete.
Right. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that certainly is a whole different conversation.
Every time we tell that story, people are like, "What? There's a world of concrete?"
Yeah. People get very enthused about this thing too. It's Mm-hmm.
Wow. So in terms of when you first started your relationship, was it love at first sight for you both?
I think it was an attraction at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, there was definitely like a spark. I mean, it was, an across the table thing, and also just, hey, we met up pretty soon after we both got back to Chicago. And started seeing each other like right away, really. So yeah.
So how would you describe your relationship now?
I think I describe it as a relationship built on mutual respect, and the desire for both of us to grow together, and also as individuals. So a lot of support, a lot of love, a lot of patience.
Yes.
But really, we want each other to be the best versions of each other.
Yeah, I think that's, right on. We both have our own kind of pursuits that we encourage each other to go after. And it's cool being, I really appreciate being in the kind of relationship that has that sort of encouragement to be ourselves, but also we put a lot of work into, making sure that our own directions are going in the same way. And, we, kind of both have similar interests, but also our own. And it's kind of a nice balance of those things. Yeah.
And so Erin and Jim, you've both been married now for 13 years. You've got 2 children. You've got a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son.
Yep.
That's right.
How do you think your relationship has changed since you become parents?
Oh, we've done a lot of growth in the 13 years.
Yes, we have.
A lot of growth. I think we're much more secure with who we are as individuals. which I think allows us to be much more secure in our relationship. We've gone over a lot of hurdles together, a lot of difficult times in our life. And I think those can definitely break apart into couples. But I think for us, it's made us stronger because we really have decided to come together and work on this as a team.
Yeah. And I think,
oh, sorry, you go, Jim.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, I think kind of following on what she says, like, I do feel like ever since the beginning, even like, it wasn't all, like we had our honeymoon stage, of course, but it's also, we certainly, both of us are trying to find ourselves at the same time as, coming together in a relationship. And we had, struggles as everyone does. But I feel like what really, I remember it really sinking in for me at an early time where it was just like, the first time I felt like I was in a relationship where it wasn't like every time there was a disagreement or we run into a problem, like, oh man, maybe that's going to be it. And it was this commitment to kind of see things through those that, we both know that even when we had, rough patches, that we're going to find a way through it together. And, like she says, be stronger on the other side. I sincerely believe that's been the case.
So can we drill down on that a little bit more in terms of when you have had disagreements or fights or conflict of any type? How have you dealt with that as a couple?
I think, for me, after we have a disagreement, I need some space to just recenter myself, get over whatever it is that I was, upset about in the first place. But then we always come back together and reconnect and repair. And I think that's really been a huge thing that we've brought into our relationship that we both kind of had to learn, honestly. And then that we've passed on to our children. And that's something that's really important to us, is that repair aspect. And then also at the same time, allowing that, it's like, okay, once we've repaired, we've reconnected, then we don't bring that up over and over again as, to punish each other. So that's kind of it. It's just like, all right, sorry for what happened. Now let's move on. And how can we, if we need to improve, if we need to make changes, we discuss that and work together in order to make sure that only gets better going forward.
And I think also recognizing, one thing I think we've really improved on, both of us, and also something we try to pass on to our kids, is that it's okay to sit in difficult feelings sometimes, which that was something that was a huge struggle for me, because I would just be like, oh, I want everything to be better right now. And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it takes a little time. Yeah. And just kind of coming to that place of, as Erin said, like sometimes she needs that space. And at first that was like, oh shoot, what I must really be off base here. But now it's just like, yeah, that's just what she needs. And she needs to feel her way. I need to feel things my way. And we try to encourage the kids also to, recognize when they're having feelings and, work through them in a hopefully healthy way, but realizing that, just pretending that you're not feeling a certain way isn't helpful to anything.
That is so true. And can I ask, Jim, because I know that you've got a book that's coming out soon.
I do.
Now, the title of that book is Fence Bat, A Big Kid's Guide to Parenting, Personal Growth and Play. Is this something that is in this book, or what is this book about?
So really it's during, when the world shut down for COVID, I started writing a daily blog to talk about, what it was like to work in the house with, having the kids here, and like this whole idea of trying to simultaneously deal with the fact that the whole world was changing. I started it thinking, well, this will be just a few weeks, this little dust up. And it lasted a while. And I wound up writing this blog for 450 days consecutively. So what it did for me, though, now that I can look back on it, is sort of see the growth that we had as a family in these sort of daily events, things that I might have forgotten about otherwise, or little stories that came out and things that we learned together. So what the book is kind of a look back on that time. It's a collection of stories essentially about ways that we, both Erin and I and the kids, found our way through that and grew and came through it in a different way, or try to find the positives to what was definitely a difficult time.
And it was a difficult time. That sounds like a wonderful experience to be able to also then have something to look back on, but to see that growth Because often we
Yeah.
don't take stock of how far we've actually grown, do we?
So true.
Agreed. And I struggled about whether to write this book because I felt on some level, it's like, well, yeah, nobody wants to think about those days necessarily, but I also don't know how healthy that is. Like, I know that we want to move past, which, of course, but I also think there's recognition of the fact that that was, difficult or traumatic for many people. And maybe we need to just, absorb a little bit about, hey, there's some positives, some good stuff that could have come out of it. We made it, you made it through. Like, all right, let's take a look at how you grew and how we made it through that time. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, I know just before COVID hit, Erin was telling me that that's when your son got diagnosed with autism. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was right at the beginning, actually. So yeah, like the world kind of shut down in March of 2020, and we found out in April that he was diagnosed with autism.
So how has that, I mean, I suppose you've got not only the diagnosis, but then you've got dealing with COVID as well and the lockdowns that came with that. How has that impacted your relationship?
I mean, it's been testing at times, that's for sure. I mean, even leading up to his diagnosis, it was very difficult. And I think it can definitely break. I can see why it can break up so many couples.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard. It tests you at times and it's overwhelming. And I think on top of COVID, all of a sudden, our daughter was home from school. So we were all of a sudden homeschooling. We were juggling, trying to find providers. Once we actually got our son started in services, then we were juggling having all these therapists in our home and what feels comfortable when nobody at the time, nobody's vaccinated, there's just, it's kind of a
Right.
a wild west of
Yeah.
COVID.
And weighing like, okay, what's the balance of like, how
Right.
much risk do we take in terms of health versus what do we lose if we don't get Henry the support he needs? So yeah, a lot of decisions like that.
Yeah. So I think, it, like I said, it definitely tested us at times, but ultimately in the end of the day, it really has made us stronger, I think, in so many ways. I think even our little family unit is so much stronger because of what we went through. And we really did have to I mean, I remember being so stressed every single night. It's just like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get through the day? But we had to really rely on each other because, we didn't have many options, especially with, immune compromised and all that in our house. We had to be really careful. And we were kind of just this little, little group of people that really had to lean on each other more than usual.
It's true, but it's also like, it's funny how even, going back and looking at a lot of this and writing this book, it's like, there's some just incredibly sweet moments and memories thinking back on that. Like, challenging though it was, it really did bring us all together, I think. And I also think that learning more as we've gone through this process with Henry and now understanding him at a much deeper level, I think it just helps us all understand each other too. And it's like, it's been a key to a lot of I don't know, I think all of us are in I think a much better place. Like once we sort of had a course on that and we're all able to work on things together, it's a good thing.
So, Jim, can I ask you, how would you describe Erin? What words would you use to describe her?
She is strong and really just smart, passionate, driven, and decisive. Like I like, one of the good things in our relationship is I'm the sort of person who's like, I don't know, and she just she has a really good, just a good intuition and a sense of things that it's taken me a while to realize, like she'll like, hey, maybe we should do this, and I'm like, she's always right. And I'm not saying that as to be like, it's more just like, it takes my brain a little longer to catch up on some of that stuff. And I really admire that. Like, I feel like she has just a good, strong sense of herself and and others. And she is a wonderful mom and just, great with the kids and great with, everyone she works with. And it's fun to see her chasing her passion and doing the things that she's doing now. Like, it's been exciting.
Well, it sounds like you're both doing such great things in terms of supporting each other and chasing your own dreams as well. So, Erin, how would you describe Jim?
So Jim is honestly the most loving, thoughtful, and and patient person I know. I'm honestly amazed at how he juggles it all. It's like right now he's dealing with so much. He's, got a full-time job. He's a freelance writer. He's writing this book, and he's seriously the most amazing father I've ever met. I mean, he's so caring and intuitive and just always available for his children. And I'm amazed at how he handles it. When I have 8 billion things juggling, I'm stressed out to the max, and I know he is too, but he's just kind of calm and collected. And he always puts family first, which I think is one of the most lovely things about him, is just the awareness and the thought of his children and his wife always being number one. It's just, I don't know, he's just the most amazing person.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. How does that make you feel to hear that, Jim?
Very nice inside. That's really
yeah. I'm going to lighten things up here a little bit. Mm-hmm. What is the one thing that you most often fight about?
Oh gosh, probably say money.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Yeah. Say money.
Mm-hmm. As in spending it, or where it gets allocated?
All of the above.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah. It's or just I don't even know if it's so much. It's like it's seldom that we're like yelling at each other about whether about where to spend money or how, but it's just it's a point of stress, as it is I think in many relationships, and so that then causes tension when we're talking about certain things. Yeah.
So then what is something that you do to overcome those issues? How, when you're starting to have that conversation about money and you can see yourself getting stressed, you talked before, Erin, about taking yourself away, giving yourself some space. How do you overcome that issue, though, before it even becomes a point of contention?
Yeah, good question. I think honestly for us, we communicate on everything. Like there really isn't a time where we're not communicating. Yeah. And I think that's honestly been the biggest thing for us, is keeping that communication open and going. And even when we both want to shut down, we allow ourselves those breaks. And yes, Jim's definitely more of the type like, all right, let's just fix it right now. And I sometimes more like, I need space right now. So we've had to kind of overcome that, and him being comfortable with my needing space, and me being more comfortable with like, all right, maybe I need to speed this up a little bit, this conflict resolution a little bit. I grew up in a family of holding grudges. So that's something I really had to overcome, is not hold grudges, and talking through all of that, talking through that discomfort, kind of that ickiness that money can bring up.
Yeah. For me, it's just, I think too, I have like, anxiety is something I've dealt with for a lot of years in a lot of different areas, and that comes out in that. And for me, a lot of it is just learning to, sort of be able to take a breath and step back and realize that, not everything is the end of the world, and, we can, get through things, and always do. So that's, it's sort of like that faith in the general sense of like, the next day is still the sun will rise and life will go on.
It always does, doesn't it?
It does. It has a pesky habit of doing that. Yes.
Yeah, it does. So are you both working from home, or Jim, do you go to an office to work?
We both work from home. Yeah.
Both work from home. Okay. So how do you find that working together?
It's funny. So Jim works upstairs. He has kind of like in a loft, and I work downstairs. And it's funny, we're in the same house, but we barely see each other. So it's really not that bad, but it's nice because, there'd be days where it'd be like, hey, do you want to go out for lunch? So we can just randomly, go have a midday date and get away for a few minutes. But it's actually been pretty smooth. We've worked it out. There's been times, I know during COVID, it was harder because we both work in like open, lofty spaces. I know when the kids were home, that can be more complicated. But in general, I'd say it's going pretty smoothly so far.
It usually, because it just tends to work out. I mean, it's an issue if like, both of us have a presentation at the same time, then one of us will go into a quiet room. I was actually just remembering that early in COVID when we were dealing with that, is like, I'd have to give these Zoom presentations and the kids are running around. It was like, one of the first ones I gave was literally sitting in like a kid's chair with a kid table, like, knees up here, like, out of the shot, luckily. But very professional. So we find ways.
I think everyone found ways during COVID
Yeah.
as to how to make it work, really.
So that's right. Ingenuity.
It was all trial and
That's
error.
right. Yes.
Yeah, it really was.
So tell me, in terms of your preferred way to catch up with each other, do you go on dates, breakfast dates, lunch dates, dinner dates? How would you find the time to repair and reconnect with each other?
So dinner time is a big thing in our family. We always sit together, all four of us, and have dinner. And then usually the kids are done in like 10, 15 minutes. But we've kind of implemented, not necessarily a rule, but kind of just, we like to sit and chat afterwards. And so the kids go off and play, and we'll be, talking, and we might even start cleaning up the dishes and continue chatting. And that's definitely our connection. We also just started doing a weekly date night, which is so lovely. Been trying to pull that off for a really long time. Finally found a way to pull that off. And that's been really nice.
Yeah.
We're both really big foodies, so we like to go try different restaurants throughout Denver and Boulder. And, it's nice having that time to reconnect and catch up and not have kids constantly interrupting us and
Mom, dad.
Yeah. So dinner, food.
Yeah, dinner. Yeah, we like food. We like to cook. We like to eat. it's like it's so yeah, that's stuff we like to do together.
Beautiful. So now I want to play a game with you. And the game that I want to play is, how well do you actually know each other?
Oh man, these games are scary.
Yeah. Now we've got to be mindful that we're both we're recording this with the video, but we've also got just the audio option. So what will happen is, once you've written down your answers and I ask you to hold them up, you'll need to say what the answers are as well for the audio version. Okay. So who wants to go first as being the person to guess the other?
Oh, I'll guess. Yeah, I'll go
We'll
first.
guess. Okay. So Jim, do you have pen and paper? You both need pen and paper for this.
Yep. So
Okay. So I'm going to ask 5 questions. And I want you both to write down your answer. And then Jim, I'm going to get yours. I'm going to get you to wait until after Erin has held up what she has guessed for you. And then we'll see if you've got the same. Okay. Understand?
Yep.
Radio.
Yes. Got it.
Okay. So
wait,
Erin,
so I'm writing my actual answer down and you're
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Okay. So Erin, so what is Jim's favorite food?
I'm gonna say Mexican food.
And Jim?
This is a tough question, because this is not one I have a ready-made answer to. Because that's not really wrong. Although what I wrote down was penne arrabbiata, because I love a good spicy sauce. I also love good spicy Mexican food. So I can't really go as far as declaring Erin's answer wrong, because it just depends on what day you catch me.
Fair enough. Okay, ready for the next one?
Yep.
Erin, what is Jim's favorite song?
Okay. I'm going to say anything by Devo.
Beautiful World, Devo. Yeah.
Very good.
Good one.
Okay, next one. Erin, would Jim rather read a book or watch a movie?
I'm going to say watch a movie.
That's correct. I know I like
There
books
we
too,
go.
but lately more movies.
Okay, 2 more left. Erin, what is Jim's favorite movie?
Oh. I'm going to say Rushmore.
I was gonna say like that one. Yeah, I openly, like, often any chance I have to say, like, my favorite movie is Rushmore. Like,
It does, yeah.
Okay, and then lastly, does Jim prefer coffee or wine?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
well, I got to ruminate on this one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can you put coffee and wine together? Oh man.
I was about to say espresso martini, but that's not even wine, so we can't even do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's true. Well,
Yeah.
also good though, but yeah.
All right.
This is
I'm gonna make a guess here. And
again, she's not going to be wrong either way.
I'm
So
gonna
yeah,
say wine.
I was almost going to say wine. I did ultimately say coffee for the reason that it's that question of like, if it's like I had to go, like have neither or either. It's like me getting through the day without coffee seems more challenging than
without wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wine I can do without, but yeah, coffee. I do love coffee, so that's a toughie.
Okay, are you ready to switch roles?
Yes.
All set.
All right, I'm just going to write on the back of this. Okay.
Okay, so Jim, does Erin prefer the morning or the night?
Feeling I'm not going to do well on this. All right, I'm going to say morning.
Oh, sorry, honey. It's night. I'm not a morning person.
Would you like to go to bed early?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
That's fair.
That's because the
Okay.
children, they run the night for me.
True that. Yeah.
Don't like to get up early though. No.
I do not.
No, that's
Yeah.
getting up early is not a popular thing in this house, really,
Not
across
at
the
all.
board.
Yeah, not at all.
That's good that your kids don't like getting up early.
Not
They
so much
don't.
anymore. Yeah, Henry used to. But
Yeah,
not so
Henry
much
used to be
anymore.
like a 5 a.m.er,
Yeah.
which was just horrible.
Yeah.
So
Fortunately, that phase, at least for now, has passed. Yes.
Okay, Jim, what is Erin's favorite color?
Yellow.
yep, I'm gonna go with yellow.
Yellow. Ah. You're doing well, Jim.
Well, I'm all right. I'm doing okay.
What is Erin's favorite pair of shoes?
I don't think that's fair. Oh, geez. See this. I'll tell you the trouble with this. Well, I'm just gonna. I'm gonna just honestly go blank because it's like I can picture her shoes. I don't really know how to describe any of them, and I would get it wrong anyway. So I'm just gonna admit on this one.
Yeah, see, if it was the
I'm
other way
unsure.
around, I would totally know.
Yeah, she would know the answer to that for me, but it's like she has great shoes. I love them all, but I don't really know. Yeah,
I'm gonna say slip-on sneakers.
nice.
My absolute favorite.
Cool.
Nice.
I would have had it wrong anyway had I answered something.
Okay. Would Erin rather travel the world or stay at home?
Oh. You say travel the world.
Got that right. Travel the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, what is her favorite coffee order?
Oh.
This one I feel like is a mandatory. You should know this.
Yeah, it's now the question is going to be because there's really two, and am I getting the right one? Coffee frappuccino with almond milk or oat milk, I guess probably, but yeah.
Yep, coffee frappuccino. You got it.
All right.
Beautiful.
Also does like
well done.
regular cappuccinos as well, but yeah.
Well done. Thank you so much for playing that with me.
It's a fun game.
That was
Thank
fun.
you.
Thanks.
That's okay. It's nice to be able to have those little moments together, I find.
Yes.
So tell me, in terms of your relationship, have you ever lied or covered something up for the other?
Gosh, I don't think so.
I honestly, I mean, I can't think of anything that's coming to mind. Let's put it that way. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's a really tough one.
That's a toughie. Like, I mean,
I don't think so.
it's not to say that, I'm sure that I've, there's been a fib here or there.
Right, I'm sure there's a few white lies in there,
but I can't think of anything serious on that front, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Okay. And so what's been one of the most memorable moments of your relationship?
I'm going to just say the trip we took to London and Paris.
Totally what I was thinking.
Yeah. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
That
totally.
was, in fact, even drilling it down further, we were in London for a few days and then we went to Paris. And I remember it was like a funny thing of like, we both love London so much. Or like, it was almost like, darn it, I wish we weren't leaving London to go to Paris. Like, right,
oh,
which
gosh.
seems ridiculous. I had never been there before. And we showed up and the afternoon we were there, this was for our anniversary, like our 3rd anniversary. So it was November. And the first day we were there was just absolutely magical. Like just the weather was like this perfect fall day. beautiful, like, we were over by like Notre Dame and just walking around. I remember we pulled off and like in fact, we had a cup of coffee and a glass of wine at, both my favorites at this little cafe. And there's literally like a guy playing the accordion, and it was just like something straight out of a movie. It was really wonderful. So I always think that was a real special moment.
That was just a magical trip.
It was, yeah.
Sounds beautiful. And before children, if it was your 3rd anniversary?
Yes, this was, a little before children.
Yeah, it was just, a few months before.
Yep.
Yep. Before
Wow.
That's right.
So we've talked about how your relationships changed post children. How important do you think it is to have that sounding board, though, in each other when it comes to navigating parenting and relationships and all of those obstacles that get thrown your way?
Oh my gosh. I honestly, I couldn't do this without him. I mean, I really couldn't. And that goes for everything. Parenting.
Yeah, me too.
Relationships with family, all that stuff. I mean, he's honestly kind of my rock. And because I think we had such a strong foundation before we had kids, we were able to then kind of roll into parenting, into parenthood with a very strong foundation, and able to really, work off of each other and thrive off of that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like there's nothing that we don't talk about, and that's the thing. Like, I couldn't even imagine. It's like, yeah, of course, there are times where we both have to, work on the fly or make decisions or do things, but it's like, I think part of the fact that we dialogue about so many things and touch base, it's like, it's always like, we always have a good sense of where things are, like what our direction is where it comes to parenting. Sorry, I got something away. Parenting and just general life stuff. Like, usually we're walking in the same path together.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And Erin, I feel like you've taken that, I suppose, that concept a little bit further, and in terms of your work that you're doing with the coaching and helping families who are navigating special needs and trying to find services and be that support for them as well. Was that a fair assumption to make?
Absolutely. I really do. That's, something we talk a lot about in my coaching sessions with families is, if you're with a partner, it's kind of like, how can you work with your partner to build the best services and the best life for your child, and how can they navigate that world together? So that's absolutely something. And I take a lot from our relationship. And even if I'm working with a parent who doesn't have a partner, I'm still incorporating a lot of what I've learned from our relationship into that to support them and guide them. And, if they want to have another relationship, how to look for a healthy relationship with somebody else. So that's definitely something that I discuss with those parents. But yeah, honestly, I'm so thankful for what I've learned in our relationship that I think has made me a better parent, made us both better parents. So then I can help navigate this world with a lot more patience and understanding in order to help other parents help their autistic child.
Yeah. I mean, certainly going through it, it's like you learn things that work and things that don't, and you're able to share that because that's not every story is a success story. So
yeah,
it's trial and error. Like, for I always think parenting in general, whether it's for any of us, it's we're all kind of figuring it out as we go. Like, I kind of feel there's a large amount of improv in parenting because there's no set rules. Everybody's different. Every kid is different. So, yeah.
If only they came with those manuals.
Right.
I know.
It'd be
absolutely.
Nice.
I talk about
or
that
a
all
YouTube
the time.
instructional video at least.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I talk about with my moms and my clients all the time is just that. It's like, you get that diagnosis and you aren't given any manual, and every child is so different. So how do you navigate this world of autism by yourself? And I can tell you, it's very overwhelming to do it and very lonely to do it by yourself. So having somebody there to help you, I wish we would have had that when Henry got his diagnosis.
Yeah. I think it was a comment I think you made earlier on, and that is the key that you found very important in your relationship is that communication and having somebody to talk to. And that is what I see you're offering those families, is that having somebody else there to talk to and just share the load with.
Completely. I mean, I have times with a client where they literally just cry. I mean, we have an hour conversation, an hour session, and they just cry the entire time. And then I start crying with them. And it is, and it's honestly having kind of that sounding board and somebody that you can, talk to about what's going on, and somebody who understands without judgment, I think is so vital. And there's so much judgment in parenting. And I feel like it's even worse when you have a child with a disability, because everybody has a different opinion. And especially if you have family that doesn't understand or doesn't have an autistic child, doesn't have a child with a disability, they always are like, oh, you're doing it wrong, or you should be, harsher with your child, or whatever it is. And it's just like, no, it's not the case. So having somebody there who they can talk to and bounce things off of, I think is really beneficial. And honestly, I love it, because I'm so thankful when clients allow me into their life and trust me to guide them on this journey. So I'm so fortunate to be doing what I'm doing and work with the clients that I have.
Oh, nice. So can I just ask one last question to wrap all of this up?
Yeah.
What do you think the secret to your relationship is?
Oh, do you want to answer that?
I really think it's, actually going right back to the top, it's one of the things Erin talked about. It's the mutual respect. I think it's, because that sort of, from that comes the communication, comes the openness, because there's this, love and respect for each other, understanding, where each other's coming from, and taking the time to understand where the other person's coming from. And also, having the respect to allow each other to do the things we do, but also having the respect for our relationship and realizing it's the foundation of, what we are, what our family is, and how important it is to, work on. And I feel like, sometimes what can happen, especially for parents or any kind of relationship, really, you get caught up in life, which is very easy to do. And you sort of forget to do the regular maintenance. I work in the construction industry, and I can tell you that's something when, you look at buildings, it's like, yeah, if you put off the regular maintenance, you might save a few dollars this year, but later on, you're going to have some real problems. And I honestly think that doing that regular maintenance over time and paying attention to the connection that we have and working on it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think, the fact that we're both willing to put the work in, and, we've turned to therapists to guide us through some hard times. We see therapists now just on a regular basis to kind of keep that, make sure that we're kind of on the same page, and we don't, I think a lot, what I see too often in families and parents is they tend to all of a sudden separate, they not necessarily on purpose, but it just kind of naturally happens. And so I think for us, having that therapist there to kind of just ensure that we're staying together and working on the same things is really beneficial. So it's great having a partner who's willing to put the work in. It's that's really special.
Yeah, I'm highly appreciative of that too. So yeah.
Thank you both so much for joining me, and I really hope that you've enjoyed the interview today. Erin, I know that you have very kindly said that for any parents who want to have a quick discussion with you, that they can jump on and they can book a discovery call if they've got some issues that they're going through. So I'll make sure that the link to do that is in the show notes, which will be at the bottom of the show. So thank you so much. Good luck with your book release, Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
I can't wait to hear. And let me know when it's out, and we can add that to the show notes as well.
Will do. Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
It's been so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much, and have a lovely night.
You too.
You too.
Ciao. And thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Relationship Talks. If you can, I would love for you to jump on and leave a review. And whilst you are at it, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please join me again next week when we get to take a look behind closed doors at someone else's relationship. But until then, I am your host, Laurie Brooke, and remember, the choice is yours, so make today and the week the very best it can be.